For March Madness 2022, I am partnering with BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. Using the link in the description, you can get a 125% sign-up bonus using the promo code JOIN125. A $100 minimum deposit is necessary. Get in on the action on this NCAA Tournament and March Madness season and any other sport in general, and make some money. Get in on the action with BetUS. Before we get started with this video, I want to let you guys know about my Discord server. We're talking college basketball live games, just college basketball in general, bracketology, Q&As, all that stuff. Hit the link in the description to join the Super Celtic 24 Discord server. Sup guys, it's Alex here, and welcome to the March 7th edition of the Bracketology update. We are less than 1 week away from Selection Sunday, and man, Selection Sunday can not get here quick enough. But before we get there, we have a ton of conference tournaments to get through. I have uploaded my predictions for the Missouri Valley Conference, which I gotta point out, I got that 100% correct. I posted that last week. Every single game with a 4 seed beating a 3 seed in the actual tournament championship game. Every single game I got 100% correct. So go ahead and check that out. I'll be putting that tag on the actual NCAA tournament video, which I know for sure won't be 100% correct. But you never know until you lose that first game. But we had a crazy weekend of college basketball. I mean, the top one, obviously. You got to mention Coach K's last game for Duke, getting spoiled by North Carolina. I mean, going into that, even North Carolina fans, come on. Nobody expected North Carolina to actually win that game and upset Duke. I mean, they were 11-point underdogs. All the celebrities are out, all the former players. Ticket prices were insane because it was at Cameron Indoor. But North Carolina sealed the deal for their tournament bid, ended Duke's hopes of getting a 1 seed in the actual NCAA tournament, and in Coach K's kind of storybook ending to his career at Cameron Indoor. Of course, we got the postseason tournaments to go, but that was his last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. But man, I am so freaking excited for this tournament, if you can't tell from my voice. But before we kind of take a look at the at the bubble watch, the brackets, all that fun stuff, I got to let you guys know about that NCAA tournament ticket giveaway. If we hit 7,777 subscribers by Selection Sunday, which is March 13th, only 6 days away, I will be giving away an NCAA tournament ticket for the first round. All you got to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, turn those post notifications on, take a screenshot, send it to @AlexPrice24 on Instagram, and you're entered. That's all you got to do. More details are in the description below. I do it every year, and it always turns out to be a fun thing to do. So make sure you enter that giveaway. It should be pretty interesting to see right now. We got a little bit of ways to go, as you can see. So make sure we can make that happen. But taking a look back at the bracketology, after a crazy weekend, Gonzaga remains the 1 seed. Indiana, the first team out, they had the chance to kind of clinch their tournament bids in their grasp. I believe it was on the road to at Purdue. They lost by 2 points. Indiana is 2-7 in their last 9 games. They have been faltering down the stretch and falling all the way out to the first team out, as you can see right there. Poor Indiana, man. So close to getting that kind of tournament clinching win, but they'll have to do some work in the Big Ten tournament. They're paired up first with Michigan. I honestly don't think a win against Michigan would do it for Indiana. They probably need to go and upset the 1 seed Illinois for that to happen. But we'll see what happens. You never know what happens in the conference tournaments. Crazy things can happen. I mean, last year, Georgetown and Oregon State, 2 teams that were pretty much down and out, they ended up somehow winning their conference tournament. So crazy things can happen. Last team in is SMU. They got a good quality win over this past weekend. Teams that have already clinched a win for the actual NCAA tournament include the Murray State Racers, Longwood, the Lancers getting their first ever tournament bid, and oh gosh, there was one more. I am completely blanking. There was one more tournament that got clinched. I can't remember off the top of my head. I just know that 3 out of the 22 have been clinched. Maybe whenever we check out the bracket, it'll pop up and remind me. But taking a look at the bubble, last 4 buys, these 4 teams I feel should be pretty confident going into the conference tournaments. But I do recommend all these teams to get at least 1 win in their conference tournament just to make things a little bit more safe. We have Wake Forest, Creighton, who just lost Ryan Nembhard, so that was kind of a big loss for them. Memphis, who just got a huge win against Houston. They swept the season series against Houston. And then Michigan, who got a big road win over Ohio State. Last four in are Xavier, Wyoming, Rutgers, and SMU. First four out are Indiana, BYU, who is already out of their conference tournament. They lost to San Francisco this weekend. So unless some crazy stuff happens, BYU will not be making the tournament. Then we have Dayton and Virginia Tech. And then the next four out are Virginia, VCU, Florida, and Texas A&M. So taking a look here at the movement on the actual bracket lines, we have San Diego State up to a 9. They have been firing on all cylinders as the Mountain West. I want to say they're the 1 seed in the Mountain West. I may be wrong on that. Don't quote me on it. But they have been playing great in the last month. Then we have Arkansas up to a 4. Then we have Wake Forest down to a 10. Then taking a look at the South Regional, Michigan State down to an 8. San Francisco, as I mentioned, they beat BYU. They're now up to a 9. Creighton down to a 10. And then over there in the Midwest Regional, we have North Carolina up to an 8 after that big road win over Duke. Iowa State down to a 9. SMU new to the field as the 12. Chattanooga down to a 13. Loyola Chicago, that's what it was. They were the other team that had clinched. I don't know why I didn't think of them because I mentioned them at the top of the video with the MVC. They clinched. The Ramblers and Sister Jean, they are making their way back into the tournament as an 11 seed there. Montana State up to a 14. Then we have Marquette up to a 7. Miami down to a 10. And Auburn falling down to the 2 line. Then taking a look at that last regional, Kansas up to a 1. Toledo down to a 13, Wyoming down to a 12, Memphis up to an 11, and then Towson down to a 14. Then, of course, if you guys have been watching my bracketologies, you know that I will be going to the Indianapolis Regionals, both the first and second round. So I'll get to see Kentucky play as of right now and probably Purdue. Let me see if I can find them yet over there, Purdue. So I get to see the Ramblers, too. That'd be a pretty cool matchup to see St. Mary's and Loyola Chicago. But as you guys know, every time that I do one of these bracketology videos, I go to vertex42.com, download their bracket template, fill in all the teams, and give my predictions for the tournament with this bracketology. It's always fun to do because anytime the bracket kind of changes a little bit, matchups get switched around, it can have big implications for who makes the Final Four and that sort of thing. So before we get into my actual predictions, we got to come up with a 2-word food item. We are going to do a fudge brownie. I watched AEW Revolution. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I had some Papa John's and some fudge brownie. That's why it's on the mind. If you're watching at this point in the video and you're not just skipping to the end to see who I pick as my national champion, I appreciate you for watching the entire video. Comment fudge brownie down below so I know you are watching the full video. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into these picks. Up first, Gonzaga will beat the winner of Alcorn State and Nichols. Then I think TCU, after beating Kansas earlier last week, I think that they will beat San Diego State. Then I'm going to go, do I want to do it? North Texas just lost to UTEP. UConn, I'm going to do it. North Texas pulling off the 12/5. They're like 22-1 in their last 23 games, something crazy like that. I got them pulling off the 12/5 over Connecticut. Arkansas will beat Vermont. Then we're going to go with Michigan pulling off the 11/6 over LSU. I feel pretty confident in that upset there. Texas Tech will beat Seattle, and that was a rematch of the second round matchup there, LSU and Michigan last year. Then we are going to go with Colorado State beating Wake Forest and Wisconsin moving on past Long Beach State. And then for a spot in the Sweet 16, Gonzaga will advance past TCU. Arkansas will advance past North Texas. Then we're going to go with Texas Tech moving on past Michigan and Wisconsin over Colorado State. But then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm doing it based off of this bracketology. I'm pulling off the upset here. The number 1 overall seed falling here in the Sweet 16 to Arkansas, one of the hottest teams in the nation with J.D. Notae, Jalen Williams. They have beaten Kentucky, Auburn, and Tennessee, and LSU, all the teams in the SEC, the top teams. I think that they can pull off the victory there against Gonzaga. Though it'll be interesting to see how Jalen Williams and Arkansas deal with Tinney and Holmgren down low. I think Arkansas has the momentum, though, to pull off the upset there. And they will face the winner of Texas Tech and Wisconsin, which I do think would be Texas Tech, which sets up a 4 versus 3 for a spot in the Final Four. I got the Razorbacks of Arkansas, the 4 seed, advancing on to the Final Four out of that top left regional. So moving on down to the bottom left, Kansas will advance on past Georgia State. Murray State, the Racers, will move on past Seton Hall. Then I am going to, this is like a perfect matchup for Houston here. I am going to go with Houston beating the winner of Xavier and Wyoming. Houston's one of my favorite upset teams to get upset, but in that matchup there, I just don't really believe in Xavier or Wyoming to get it done. Illinois is going to beat Toledo. Then we're going to go with Memphis pulling off the 11/6. Memphis, they have beaten Houston twice. They've shown that they can compete. Ohio State, I just don't know which team is going to show up. The team that loses to Nebraska and blows a big lead at home against Michigan, or a team that can beat top teams in the Big Ten as well. And they beat Duke earlier this year as well. I got Memphis pulling off the 11/6. Villanova beating Towson. Notre Dame pulling off the 10/7 upset over USC, and then Kentucky beating Longwood. And then we're going to have Kansas advancing on to the Sweet 16 past Murray State. Illinois moving on past Houston. Then Villanova will beat Memphis, and Kentucky will beat Notre Dame in a rematch of their matchup from earlier in the regular season. Kansas versus Illinois. This one would be very interesting for me down low between Kofi Cockburn and David McCormick. But I think those two will kind of cancel each other out. And Elshe Ajabi, I think is how you pronounce it, for Kansas. I think that they'll advance on to the Elite Eight there past Illinois. And they will face the winner of Kentucky and Villanova, which I think will be Kentucky. Kansas and Kentucky, two blue blood programs here. Rematch of the 2012 National Championship game. I got the Wildcats of Kentucky moving on to the Final Four. So moving on down to the bottom right regional here. Arizona will move on past the winner of Cleveland State and Bryant. North Carolina, I think, can beat Iowa State. Then I'm going to go with Texas beating the winner of Rutgers and SMU, which I think would be Rutgers. Providence will beat Chattanooga. Then we are going to go with another 11/6 here with Loyola Chicago advancing on past St. Mary's. I believe in the Ramblers to make some tournament magic happen. Purdue will beat Montana State. Then we're going to go with Marquette moving on past Miami, and Auburn moving on past Colgate to complete that first set of games over there in the bottom right regional. Arizona, I do think, will advance to the Sweet 16 past North Carolina. Texas will beat Providence there at 5/4. Purdue will beat Loyola Chicago, and then we are going to go with Auburn advancing on past Marquette, which sets up Arizona versus Texas for a spot in the Elite Eight. I am going to go with the Wildcats of Arizona advancing on there. And Purdue versus Auburn, this one I'm completely split on. I have no idea who's going to win. There's top 5 talent on both teams, good big men down low as well. I am going to go with the Boilermakers, though, advancing on. Auburn is like 4-3 in their last 7 games. It should be interesting to see how Jaden Ivey versus Jabari Smith ends up going. Both projected top 5 picks. But then Arizona and Purdue for a spot in the Final Four. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick Purdue, pulling off the upset there and advancing on to the Final Four. So right now we have a 2, a 3, and a 4 seed currently in the Final Four. So we got to go up to our last regional here. Baylor will advance on past Norfolk State. Michigan State, I do think, can beat San Francisco. Alabama will beat South Dakota State. UCLA will move on past Iona. Iowa, I think, can beat Davidson there. And Tennessee will beat Princeton. Then we're going to go with Boise State advancing on past Creighton and Duke over Jacksonville State. So no upsets there in that region. I think South Dakota State is probably the best choice for an upset over Alabama, but I think that Alabama can get it done. In the Sweet 16, Baylor will advance on past Michigan State. UCLA will beat Alabama. Then Iowa versus Tennessee, a rematch of like the 2019 round of 32 game. This one would be really interesting. I can see both teams walking out of there with the W, but I am going to go with Tennessee advancing on past Iowa along with Duke over Boise State. For a spot in the Elite Eight, I think this matchup is going to be fantastic there, Baylor versus UCLA, but I do think that Baylor will advance on there. Tennessee versus Duke, I'm doing it. I'm picking Tennessee to move on past Duke. Tennessee has won, I think, 12 out of the last 13 games, or like 10 out of the last 12, something crazy like that. They are on an absolute tear, playing great basketball right now. And Duke, obviously, I picked them to win their last bracketology, but I was doing full narrative there. I don't think that they'll actually move on to the national championship, especially whenever they lose to North Carolina. They just haven't been able to put good teams away, which sets up Baylor versus Tennessee for a spot in the Final Four. I got to have at least one number 1 seed in there. I do think that Baylor can beat Tennessee, especially with James Akinjo back and playing fantastic, which sets up a 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed all in the Final Four. Up first, we have Arkansas versus Kentucky, the rematch. This should be very interesting to see what happens with a fully healthy Kentucky squad against Arkansas. I am going to pick Kentucky to win that game if they're fully healthy, just like I did in the SEC tournament. But Arkansas, I can definitely see them winning that game. Baylor versus Purdue, that should be really good too, but I do have Baylor advancing on past Purdue in that matchup, which sets up Kentucky versus Baylor in the national championship. Now I'm going to surprise some people here. I'm picking the Baylor Bears. Somehow, I thought they were going to be doing horrible whenever they lost Chamwa and it would test their depth, but they are playing really well right now, playing their way all the way to the second overall seed, which is where they were last year when they won the national championship. As of right now, I'm picking Baylor to win this bracketology. So, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this bracketology. Let me know what you think of my picks in the comment section below. Let me know your own predictions as well. Don't forget to bet with BetUS. Join the Discord server, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all later.